Hello and welcome to Warcraft Daily for today the 25th of May 2013. In today's news we have an interview with Holinka and Ghostcrawler, some more hotfixes, blue posts and a bunch of blue tweets, and they're actually kind of interesting this time, so hurrah for that. Now let's jump straight into the interview, and this is mostly in PvP and it's pretty good. So, first of all, they said that before patch 5.3, new PvPers would melt instantly, and of course the resilience change that they made has fixed this, because you have your base 65% resilience, so it's all good. Next, we said that the PvP power changes, which were decreasing the amount of gems and then increasing the amount of rating you needed for 1% PvP power. The thing about this was it meant that PvP power is not the only good gem choice. You can actually gem your primary stat, whatever sort of thing you want, which is pretty good. They've also said that the item scaling, which is when they scale items down to, I think, 476, that reduces the power of PvE trinkets, which, the burst damage was just crazy. So it's pretty good the way they have it now. And they've said that they plan on doing more cosmetic PvP rewards, because if you think of it, now that you can't upgrade PvP gear anymore, you need something to spend your excess conquest on once you manage to get a full conquest set. Now, of course, I don't actually do enough PvP for that to be feasible, but for those of you who are, all big, crazy into your PvP, it's pretty damn good, more stuff to spend your things on. Or something along those lines. Now, they've also said that having spells being different in PvE and PvP is pretty rare, and it seems to be a last resort, because, it's really annoying for players that just, they're casual, they don't really pay attention to the fan sites and stuff, maybe they have the simple tooltips turned on. It's really confusing for them. So essentially they just want to, reduce that, pretty much, and I think that's fair enough. Now, they've also said that the killable Warlock Gateway adds a pretty good counter, and usually killing something's a good counter to it. The maneuverability the Gateway used to give in arenas was pretty crazy, so I think it's nice that they've fixed that. Also in 5.2, the rogue talent changes were way too much for survivability and stuff like that, and 5.3 brings them back in line. I think that's a key theme for a few different changes they made in 5.2 with talents, and in general they've had to bring in nerfs. Not crazy nerfs, but ones that make sense. Also the Hunter pet nerf, that was because Hunters had a little bit too much CC, but it's only the CC on the pet. So I think it's fair enough what they've done. As a Hunter, I'm pretty happy. Also they said that the warrior nerfs in patch 5.2 were a little bit too strong. See, initially they nerfed them in a hotfix, but then in patch 5.2 they just fully blasted them, and it was too much, so assuming things are now better, as of 5.3. And finally, for the interview, they've said that they like there to be some burst, because when there's enough burst you can burst down a player, sort of CC, stun, all that shit. It pretty much means that matches are not about waiting for healers to run out of mana. And I think that's very good. I think everybody who's done a battleground knows there's those times when you're fighting healer and that you could just fight them for 5 minutes and they're just sitting there healing up, as long as you don't have the interrupts. So, yes, I think that's a very good change. Now, on to the blues. The blues are people who've been saying things, and they've been kind of interesting. So, first of all, there's some talk about a valor point catch-up system. Now, this proposed to be sort of similar to the conquest point thing. That was, of course, by a player, not by Blizzard. And they pretty much say no. At the end of the day, conquest and valor are, they're similar as in they're the premium currency, if you know what I mean, but they're quite different. In conquest, it's about catching up with the tyrannical pieces so that you're competitive in the season. And the catch-up's needed because you only get conquest through one thing, PvP. Whereas in PvE, you don't need a catch-up because you can do heroic scenarios, LFR, challenge modes, arenas, and random battlegrounds with the new changes the way things are, because they made it so that PvP gear is actually half decent. That's one of the things they wanted to do, actually, was make it so that PvP gear could introduce you to PvE and vice versa. So that's kind of interesting. But there's loads of different ways to get gear other than valor points. That's the bottom line. Whereas with PvP, for that max, when I say max level, I mean exactly the same as the level that any higher gear is scaled down to, that being 496. To have a full set of max gear, in that case, is very important if you're doing arenas or something like that, so it's vital to have the conquest point catch up. Whereas with valor points, it's not, and there's other ways for you to get gear. I think this is pretty much fair on Blizzard's part. It makes sense, and I don't think there should be a valor point catch up. No way. It's kind of dumb. Now we have tweets, and the tweets are pretty interesting actually. Some good information out of Blizzard about rep and quests. So this is about the dailies. Blizzard have said here that they believe that removing the daily limit was actually a mistake. Because what it did was people sort of thought, oh, I can do all these dailies, I better do the dailies, and then they got burnt out and started raging on the forums. Blizzard didn't like that. Essentially, if they make it the most optimal thing that a player can do is to do all the dailies every day, then people feel like they need to do that, like they're obliged if they want to be optimal, and then they're going to have less fun. And like ways to fix this, they're trying to add more non-daily forms of progression. And I think a perfect example of this is Battlefield Barons. You know, it's not dailies, it's reasonably social, like, you know, you're communicating in general chat with people in your server, killing the commanders, and, you know, it's a bit of fun. It's different from dailies. I've done very little grinding, like people may say, oh, you just need to kill, you know, 600 mobs to get enough stuff for the weekly. Not really. Like, I've not done that much grinding. Most of the resources I've got have just been killing commanders and doing fun stuff, so I really do think that Battlefield Barons was the ideal solution to this problem, and it definitely was a problem. I don't think the model of having each new patch just be, oh look, a new daily hub, I don't think that's a sustainable model at all. So, on to hotfixes, and I'm just going to blast through these because at the end of the day they're not really interesting, so yeah. There's basic class changes, you can see them on the screen, I'm not going to go over that. Same applies to pet battles. Now, there's been a change in Throne of Thunder. The Dark Anima golems now generate more threat when attacking their current target. In Duramu the Forgotten, the Crimson and Azure Fog should now properly remain visible once revealed. An interesting one actually, Deepwind Gorge has had its capture point issue fixed. This means you can now properly capture points, and that should, I suppose, mean that it's back in the map pool for PvP. For Battlefield Barons, the commanders have had large nerfs to their abilities. They could pretty much nearly one-shot people in places, so I guess fair enough, although I didn't see it being a humongous problem. And the overturned caravans no longer despawn earlier than intended. And finally, the Brawlers Guild challenge cards can now be completed while in a raid. Very game-changing stuff there. Wow. So, yes, that's it for today's Warcraft Daily. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe because it really helps the channel, helps me grow, which has been going quite well actually. I've nearly doubled my daily views in a month, which is quite nice. I hope that continues. Somehow I don't think it will. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.